Look, I'm currently looking at an adaptive mountain bike being flown by a helicopter over the most ridiculous peaks I've ever seen in my life. Feeling pretty good?
Sick. Yeah, Ryan. All right, so we are here in Retallack with my friend Ryan, who just met yesterday, and I just haven't really done a podcast before, but really wanted to do this because I was really inspired seeing him yesterday. He's the first adaptive mountain biker to come to Retallack, and he was sending it on a bucket bike and just having a blast, riding some steep, gnarly stuff, and just was really inspiring to me, and I just wanted to kind of talk to him, learn more about his story, and kind of fill you guys in.
Yeah, man. Thanks for sitting down with me here. Yeah, pretty cool to hear that I was the first adaptive mountain biker that's been through these parts. I don't necessarily feel like anything that I'm doing is outlandish or crazy enough to think that I'm the first person to be doing it here. But yeah, totally inspired by the guys that are doing it on the snow side of things and the big mountain scene. Definitely inspired by that. So I want to bring it over to the mountain bike scene, and Retallack Lodge was kind enough to host me and my friends and give us an opportunity to come out here and do that.
That's awesome. And
Pretty cool.
I guess tell us a little bit more about kind of your spinal cord injury, what happened, how it happened, and where you are now.
Sure. So in 2016, mountain biking was my life. I mean, I had just gotten married the year prior in 2015. 2016, I was an aspiring professional enduro mountain bike racer. I had my eyes set on the Eastern States Cup. Was probably 5 races into that season when my spinal cord injury happened. I was just free riding with a couple buddies at Highland Mountain Bike Park, which is kind of right in my backyard in New Hampshire. 2 of those guys that were with me that day are actually here with me this on this trip here to Retallack. So that's a pretty cool thing. But yeah, like just had an over the bars crash that was pretty similar to other crashes that I've had on a mountain bike. Like, not necessarily that I was like riding recklessly. Just crashing is part of riding, as you know, and the stars just aligned in the wrong way this time, and I dislocated my back at T4 and impinged my spinal cord, that resulted in a T4 complete spinal cord injury. I also fractured C1 and C2 in my injury, which is where your brainstem sits. So luckily that was not dislodged or displaced at all, or else that would have been it for me.
Wow.
But I was in a halo for 3 months because of those fractures in my neck. So that was pretty brutal.
That's crazy.
Not just the injury, but having to deal with the halo for 3 months. Like after that, initially going into the spinal cord injury, just being totally stuck for 3 months. And then coming out of that, with the weakest, stiffest neck you've ever felt in your life, and dealing with trying to adapt in a wheelchair. It was pretty crazy.
That's crazy. And so you basically have no feeling in your legs.
Yep. So it is chest down. T4 is like kind of right below your nipple level. So no core muscles really, which for the bucket bike actually doesn't really matter much because you can stabilize yourself on the handlebars and hold your core pretty good, and it's just basically a balance game. So as long as you have forward momentum, the bike works pretty well.
That's cool.
So after my injury, I went down to Concord Hospital initially. I was supposed to be flown to Dartmouth, but it was a crappy weather day.
And you live in New Hampshire, right?
I do, yes. So helicopters were not flying. I was supposed to go to Dartmouth via helicopter. That did not happen because of the weather, so I got sent down to Concord, which is the closest hospital to Highland. From there, they kind of diagnosed me with the news, and then I was immediately sent via ambulance to Dartmouth Hitchcock, which is where I was in the ICU for like 10 days. Had my spinal fusion surgery, the halo was placed, and then I went to Spalding Rehab in Charlestown, Massachusetts, or Cambridge. I think it's in Cambridge.
What were your initial thoughts, like kind of right after the injury?
I was ready to get after it. I wanted to hit physical therapy as hard as I could. The day after my spinal fusion surgery, I was kind of up on the side of my bed, feeling like hell, dealing with blood pressure issues, which is a prevalent thing with spinal cord injuries.
Really?
So kind of getting used to what that felt like. But
What does that mean?
so blood pressure, there's a lot of things that happen with a spinal cord injury that aren't necessarily so obvious to other people, but blood pressure is certainly one of them. So if I was to just put myself in like a frame right now where I could stand up, I would have like a circulation issue where I would feel like I was going to pass out and I would have to come back down. And it would be just you've probably felt that before. If you stand up too quick, sometimes you're like, oh God, like a little bit dizzy. That happens quite a bit with spinal cord injury. So circulation's not as great because your muscles are not flexing your blood through your body. So initially, like right away, that was things that I had to learn about, dealing with these new symptoms in my body and trying to understand what they meant and how I could make myself better.
Crazy.
So that's what it was all about at first. And at Dartmouth Hitchcock, I had this physical therapist. I'll never forget. Her name was Mo. She came into my room the day after my spinal fusion surgery, and it was just like we connected immediately. And she was like just such a go-getter. Basically, had no pity for me and was just like, "Let's go." Like treating me like anybody else, and I just loved it.
That's cool.
Yeah.
It's cool to hear that you were just like ready to get after it, and I think that's the mentality you need to kind of be in the position you are now.
Yeah.
Where, like you said, like Retallack was a bucket list item before you got hurt, and
Right.
it doesn't mean it's not a bucket list item now.
Stuff like this doesn't exist. You just have to create it. Like I'm lucky enough to have a network of friends that we ride together every single week. So I felt as if I was experienced enough on the bucket bike to make this work, and it totally would not be possible without a big group of people. So I'm indebted to everybody who's helped me along the way, including the Team Granite guys and the people here at Retallack. I mean, it takes a team.
That's cool. And for people that don't know, what is a bucket bike, or what are you riding on here?
Yeah, so I have a Santa Cruz V10, an extra large. It's a 2017, so on the 27.5 wheel platform. I put a Tessier adaptive bucket seat that you would see on a monoski.
Okay.
I had one of my buddies that's here with me on this trip, Johnny. He's an engineer for Blodgett Ovens. So in his spare time, he designed me a seat mount that would basically adapt that would allow my Tessier bucket seat to go right to a seat post. And it also clamps the top tube as well to give it a little more stability.
Oh, cool.
So we got that done. I found an e-motor that's made in Greece by Paradox Kinetics, 1500 watts, and it just threads into the bottom bracket. The thing with this electric motor is it's not pedal assist, it's throttle only, but you can also pedal with it. So what I did is I just flipped the cranks around to face the same way. I tied them to the down tube, clipped my feet in, and that's just that holds it. And I'm not pedaling obviously, so I just use the throttle for forward momentum when I need it.
Cool. And yeah, your riding position is basically seated in the bucket.
Seated in the bucket, clipped into the pedals.
Get kind of like right over the rear wheel a little bit more, right? And then it helps your weight get a bit further back, but...
Yeah, trying to stay as low as possible. So I actually... I'm running a similar setup to what you are. Initially, I started 27.5, but I wanted to get the seat down a little bit further because I just felt so high up, like the bucking sensation was really bad at first. So I kept racking my brain thinking of a way to bring the seat down, but I was like buzzing the tire on full compression. I couldn't go any further. So we thought maybe putting a 29-inch front wheel on it, and it actually did work pretty good. It brought the bike back a little bit.
Cool.
My seat is now under the handlebars, and it minimizes the bucking sensation as much as possible, I think.
That's cool.
Yeah.
What's it like being able to ride again? Like, because right after injury, you meet Mo, you start getting after it in rehab, and then what?
I knew I wasn't done riding two wheels. I had to figure out how it was going to happen. I knew of Martin Ashton. This bike is totally inspired by him. I have been following him since his injury. I mean, even before that, his movies or his YouTube videos, the road bike party videos, I used to love watching those. Those would get me through a work day, right? In the cubicle, you watch a couple of those and you're good for the day. But yeah, Martin is a big inspiration. That's where my thought for the bucket bike came. So, um, shortly after I started the process of having my vehicle adapted, I started sending letters to companies in the industry with the help of the High Fives Foundation, and I was able to get help from Fox, Santa Cruz, Industry 9 to assemble my bucket bike.
That's awesome.
So they sent parts and supplies to the local bike shop, Cycles Etc. in Salem, Massachusetts, I'm sorry, Salem, New Hampshire, and yeah, the build started. It was over winter, and the thing was ready for the springtime.
That's
So
cool.
about a year and a half ago at this point, I've been on it for a year and a half.
So you're only basically about 2 years removed from your injury before you started riding again?
So I did ride on the year date of my injury at Killington, but it was on a four-wheel, like, rigid, tiny little go-kart that sounded like a bucket of bolts going down the hill. I can show you a picture. It was good to get out, but I had to stop riding that day because I filled a catheter bag with blood in my urine. Like,
No way.
It was so rough riding that, like, I had to stop because it was physically harming me.
No way.
So
It was so rough that you're basically just beating up
I was
your
beating
internal
the
organs.
shit out of myself, yeah, inside. So, like, literally went to pee after we were done riding, and I looked at the catheter bag, and it was just like, oh my god. So yeah, stopped. Didn't ride that bike anymore. Figured out how to find something with some suspension. But yeah, the build for the bucket bike started shortly after that.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
dude.
so I'd say I was on it a year and a half after my injury, and as we talk today, I am almost 3 years into it. August 13th of this year will be 3 years.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's pretty awesome to see you doing so well. Like, riding behind you is so fun just to, like, kind of see. You can tell all the riding skill's still there, all the mentality's still there, and basically you're carving corners just like you want to, but I'm sure there's things you're doing that you're kind of, like, pulling back a bit, like seeing gaps and stuff, but I can tell that it's there, like you're
It's
shredding.
there. Oh my god, I see those lines still so much. But honestly, what helps me with that, like, I'll give a GoPro to a buddy, and I'll tell them to go hammer this freaking trail, and I just want to watch it because, like, that's exactly what I'm seeing, right? Through the camera or through the computer of watching their GoPro footage that's the lines that I see. That's what I want to be doing, even though I'm having just as much fun, like, on the bucket bike, figuring out how to get down, and I get plenty of exhilaration out of that because it is full commit. Like, I have to be mentally and physically committed, know my stopping points. Yeah, I mean, like, here at Retallack, it's super steep and pretty exposed, so it's just all about staying focused, being committed to what you're doing, and controlling speed with braking. And yeah, just being committed.
Yeah, and for those people that don't know, like, every time he comes up to a trail junction, we are all in a big group. He essentially has one friend in front of him that pulls off to the side, usually the right side of Ryan, and then Ryan will ride up and, like, lean on his handlebar or lean on his buddy, while someone else comes up on the other side. We'll kind of take a break, regroup, and then go again from there. So you kind of ride in a 3-man train usually, right? Like,
And that's been the process that we've had to figure out in the past, whatever year and a half I've been riding this bucket bike at Highland. And Highland was the mountain that I had my injury at, and that's kind of where I'm learning to ride this bucket bike. So actually, so I'll tell you a story about how this ride started Wednesday nights at Highland. So prior to my injury in 2015, me and a couple buddies would go ride Highland on Wednesday nights. After they would shut the lift down, we would start riding Easy Rider up the mountain.
yeah, and
So-
Highland's a big mountain bike park in New Hampshire, correct?
It is, correct. Yeah, so without permission, we would be riding up the descending trails, trying to get some, like, just practice in, you know, like going out for a big ride on Wednesday nights. It was a great time for us. So we would do that, and then we would have, you know, a beer or two in the parking lot after and call it a night. So we did that for a couple times. Highland kind of got word of it, and they didn't tell us no, but they weren't really impressed with what we were doing. I had my injury shortly after that.
Was that on a Wednesday night?
It was not on a Wednesday night. No, it wasn't. It was on a weekend day. I think it was on a Sunday. I can't exactly
Okay.
remember. But anyways, after my injury, shortly after the riding season starts back up again or whatever, and Highland fully embraces this thing, and they call it Wednesduro. So now you can go to Highland on Wednesday nights. You can get a pass for, I think it's $5, and you're allowed to climb the mountain and descend any trail you want, 5 p.m. to as late as you want if you have lights.
No way.
But then they have the bar open after with food and stuff. So it has grown the mountain biking community in southern New Hampshire, like for the enduro riders who want to pedal, significantly. And for me, selfishly, that's what I want to ride the bucket bike, because I don't have to get out of it. I have a couple batteries. I can just jam up the mountain and stay in the bike. I don't have to mess with getting out and loading a chairlift or anything like that.
Totally.
It's spectacular.
So it's just your freedom's back.
Correct. 100%. So it's weird how things in my prior life kind of started something to allow me to get to where I am now.
That's cool. And
Yeah.
for people with spinal cord injuries, freedom is kind of like the biggest, most amazing feeling, right?
Independence, yeah, being able to be independent.
And that's what
Which is kind of, so for other adaptive athletes, I've gotten shit online from a couple of them saying how, you can't be independent riding the bucket bike, and like I totally agree with that. I'm not out there. I can't go out there by myself. But that's not necessarily what I'm looking to do either. Mountain biking is such a fun sport to do with buddies, and the sensation of riding two wheels, like I'm willing to lose a little bit of independence in order to gain that sensation, you know, of being on two wheels. So
and
yeah, it's funny. It's funny to hear what other people have to say about it, like especially in the SCI community, because again, independence is such a big thing, and the bucket bike is kind of controversial because it's not that really.
Yeah, but at the same time, your friends are they want to be with you and ride with you and
100%.
hang out with you, and it's like they love it, I'm sure.
They do, and they fully understand how much it means to me to still be riding two wheels. So
And I'm
they're
sure if
happy
they were
to
in the same
support it.
position, they'd hope that you would be there with them too.
Yeah,
It's not like
I'm
it's
sure.
a burden; it's just fun. Like it's cool, and like just riding with you. Even just yesterday, I was like, man, this is so rad. Like it's inspiring to be around you, and it's inspiring to ride with you. So I think they get just as much out of it as you do.
Yeah, I appreciate that. The inspiration thing is weird. Like I don't necessarily feel like I'm not trying to be an inspiration at all. Like if people are inspired by me riding my bike, then I'm very happy about that, and I'm happy to continue doing it. So
yeah, there was one point yesterday where you came down off a steep section onto the road, and we're just so stoked.
oh my god,
just kind of freaking out. Like, yeah, that was so rad. And then my girlfriend told me afterwards, she's like, I almost started crying. Like, just not for any reason other than just like to see how happy you were.
Yeah,
It's really cool, and I think that it just is a good way to kind of reset yourself. Be like, oh man, we're so lucky to be here and do this, and
very lucky to be here. Yes, this is the opportunity of a lifetime, and I can't believe it's come to fruition.
that's cool. And then so tomorrow we have plans to do the heli.
Tomorrow we have plans to do the heli. Yeah, so today, to let your listeners know what's going on, it rained pretty hard this morning, and after yesterday's ride on the bucket bike, I'm having some electric issues on the motor, so I'm down one bike, but I have another bike called the Bowhead Reach, which actually I'm working with this company. They asked me to be a team rider for them, and provided me with one of their vehicles, which is called the Bowhead Reach. It's a 3-wheel adaptive bike that has side hilling capabilities with a fat tire in the rear and 3,000 watts of power.
Yeah, and that
So you
thing's pretty
sit-
cool. It's like independent front suspension and with a
Independent
linkage,
front
right?
and rear suspension, and you sit recumbent in it, so legs out in front, and that thing is crazy. It's insanely capable, way more capable than what I'm able to give it right now, which is cool because every ride I go on, I feel a bit of progression, and I'm learning how to ride it a little bit better. But it's so different than riding a bike. It's crazy. Like you're picking 3 lines through things instead of one, and that's kind of what I'm learning at the moment. But it's gonna be great once I master it. Like I'll be able to take that thing places that I would never be able to get to in any other vehicle.
That's cool. And like you were telling me that the front 2 wheels essentially are as wide as your handlebars. So
Correct.
Theoretically it should fit anywhere a normal bike fits.
That is the thought behind this bike. Yes, it's not necessarily to have to adapt to anything. It's just being able to fit in.
Yeah.
So the creator of this bike, his name is Christian Bagg. He's out of Calgary, Alberta. That's his thing. He just wants inclusion and not necessarily having to adapt, which I think is a great thing, because being a mountain biker, the last thing I want to do is have to ride have to ride like dumbed down adaptive trails. You know what I mean? I still want to be able to get out there and ride some fun tech stuff and big machine built flowy stuff, and not necessarily have it be labeled adaptive.
Totally.
So it's kind of important to me to be spreading that message, and I'm very happy to be on board with these guys.
Yeah.
So yeah, the Bowhead's gonna potentially be up in a helicopter tomorrow, and we'll be descending from the peaks of Retallack.
That's cool.
It's gonna be rad.
Do you have any other, like, after tomorrow, do you have any other big bucket list items for your mountain bike that you want to kind of check off as you go through, or is this a pretty big one?
This was the kind of the one that I had in my mind that I wanted to get to. So next for me is working on continuing to build the business that I've started this past January. I need to get home and focus in on that. But there will be another mountain bike trip in the works soon for sure.
Cool.
But yeah, this one is going to be. This one was the one that I wanted to check off, and I'm just on cloud 9 about it right now.
That's really cool. It's freaking awesome to see all your friends out here supporting it too, and it's cool that Retallack was so kind to like let you guys come and do this and give you kind of some accommodations. And
I don't know if it's a Canadian thing of them being like super nice, or like if they're like they kind of had to trust me quite a bit, right? To just be like, yeah, you can. They saw a couple of my videos on Instagram and basically said to me like, yeah, we think you can do it. Why don't you come? Like, we'll have you here. And now, like, after I wrote it yesterday, I'm thinking to myself like, these fucking guys, like, you have to, you know what I mean? Like, they had to trust me. They had to put a lot of trust in me to be able to do that, and I'm just thankful that they did that. Like,
yeah.
that was a big risk on them and a massive reward on me. So.
And for everyone else that's listening too, like, it's not like Ryan rode trails that we were not on. Like, they brought him with the group of 11 other riders and said, all right, we're going to go down this gnarly stuff. And he made all of it and looked like a champ the whole time. It was awesome. So it wasn't like an adaptive trail or adaptive anything. It was just he went riding with his friends and we were all just shredding, which is really cool.
Came along for the ride.
Yeah,
it was ridiculous.
So cool.
Yeah, lifelong memories there for sure.
And I guess moving forward, like, I know you said you're pretty hopeful that you will walk again in your lifetime, hopefully through some pretty cool medical advances that you're working on. What do you see for yourself, like, long term? Yeah,
so you ask, like, kind of what's next after this trip, and, you know, I think about the business that I'm working on starting up and stuff, but it's always going to be getting out of this wheelchair. Like, that is my number one life priority goal at the moment. Yeah, I just, like, seeing what I can accomplish on the bike with the team that I have around me, like, I know I know I can make it happen. I just, like, need some help medically, you know?
Yeah.
So.
And if anyone can do it, you can.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. So, sorry, it's pretty heavy for me still.
No, that's really, I mean,
but,
thanks for talking about it so openly, and, like, it's really cool. It's really cool.
I am motivated to get out of this chair. Yeah. I'll walk again for sure.
Yeah. Do you, are you pretty into, like, the research and things like that? Do you keep up on it pretty heavily?
Yeah, so I've done a couple clinical trials, actually. I spent 3 months out in California last winter doing a bladder study with external epidural stimulation. So I am plugged into that side of things, but it's a heavy financial commitment to do stuff like that, and, like, I don't necessarily want to put myself through, 6 months of a clinical trial in order to be able to, like, wiggle my toe or something like that. Like, if it's gonna happen, it needs to be like, from being in a wheelchair to walking over ground. It needs to be the case study result for me to really be perked up about it. But that's where I'm at. Like, it's my life goal to get out of this chair, and I think I know I can do it. I just need some technological help at this moment, and it's gonna happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With those clinical trials, is that something where when they're doing a clinical trial and they need people to help them with this study, is that something that they cover the cost for you?
No, it's all out of pocket.
Oh, really?
Yep.
And medical health insurance doesn't really cover that either, right?
No, unless it's FDA approved. even then, I'm not even sure if it would be covered by insurance. But yeah, so like hotel costs for 3 months out there, food for me and my wife out there, like it was quite an expense, but that's how you got to get plugged in. Like I can't be saying no to those things if I have an opportunity to do that. So that was kind of I just recently had to say no to the company that I had worked for the past 8 years prior to my injury. I was on disability for 2 years, selfishly like pursuing physical therapy, trying to regain as much as possible after my injury. But disability only lasts so long with my company, so I decided to say no, and I'm moving forward with a business I'm working on starting up, like I had mentioned. But the reason for that is because I want to be able to be gone if a clinical trial comes my way, like an opportunity to get accepted into a clinical trial comes my way. I want to be able to say yes and be gone the next day, you know. So that's going to be tough to do with a high pressure, demanding 40-hour a week job.
For sure.
So just looking for a way to carve my own path now.
That's cool.
And ultimately resulting in me getting accepted into a trial that's gonna get me out of this wheelchair.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I spent like a week riding with Paul Basagosha down in Reno, and he was talking about after his spinal cord injury, he was trying as many possible avenues. You know, like doing stem cell therapy in Mexico, doing all these kind of like crazy non-FDA approved treatments.
Yep.
And he had the same kind of frustration story that it's like you never know if it's going to work since it isn't FDA approved. There's no regulations, and a lot of times with these things they put out fake reviews and fake like success stories.
The scariest part of those things for me is like I could go to Panama tomorrow and get injected with stem cells right in the spot where I was injured and potentially regain a little bit of function. Like that's an option. The scary part is if I do that, I'm not going to be accepted into any other clinical trials because that happened. So like if I
because it's like tainted.
Correct, because I've already tried something that was foreign to what my body would do naturally, and so to be accepted into any other clinical trials, like you can't have stuff like that. You can't just be trying everything out. That is a fear
crazy.
That's a fear of mine too. Like if I go to try stem cells and then in 5 years, boom, something else comes out and they're like, oh, we can't accept you because you did this stem cell thing that didn't even really work, I would be pretty freaking pissed off about that.
Yeah, I had no idea that was the case.
So that's something that's heavy on my conscience too. Like these clinical trials are highly competitive, as I'm sure you can imagine.
Yeah, like tons of applicants.
And people that have been in chairs for significantly longer than I have that are, probably a little bit more qualified or more deserving of this, if you can be. But I just want there to be... So what I did for work prior to being injured was I was a channel manager at work. So it was just basically enabling groups of people to work together to accomplish a single task, which is what I'm doing right now on the bucket bike to a T. Which is exactly what I need in life in order to walk again. Like I need a group of people to come together. Everybody has their specialty, including me, and we collaborate in order to, make it happen. Exactly. It's all about teamwork. So like, I just feel like that's part of my story, and it needs to be included in my message. And this is a great. I'm almost using this Retallack trip as like a resume item. You know what I mean? Like I kind of want to use this as a resume item, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does, for sure. Because, I mean, like, this is pretty monumental. And, I know you say you don't feel like you're doing anything special because you're just out here with all your buds. So it's like...
Yeah, but, it does feel that way to be told that I was, like, the first adaptive mountain biker to do this is kind of like... That hits home a bit.
Yeah,
that
I think it's really special.
Yeah.
Like, and honestly, I think so many people, including myself, like, I feel like if I were to have a spinal cord injury, like the mental side would be the hardest part right away, right? And like people deal with it differently, and I think seeing you dealing with it in such a positive way that's what's inspiring.
I think it's easier knowing that it happened under my control. I was riding my bike. Like I honestly would not change that part of it. I would obviously change everything else about it, but I would not change the fact that I was under my own control pursuing my passion. Like it happened in a mountain bike crash, which is very prevalent riding bikes, like that happens. I was fully willing to accept the risk and just as you are, like every time you go out to ride, you know? I forget exactly where I was going with that.
No, you're telling me about the lady that you were in
Oh,
rehab with.
Correct, yeah. So if something like that happened to me, like a life event that was fully out of my control.
Like she was just walking to work and...
Yeah.
Yeah, air conditioning unit.
Yeah, exactly. Walking to work one morning, a window unit air conditioner fell out of a residence. I don't know if it was like a skyscraper or whatever, but it hit her in the head as she was walking to work, and she's a quadriplegic because of that. Like, that is as unfair as it gets, and that would put you in a mental state. I mean, that would put me in a mental state that I don't know, I'd be able to deal with that.
Yeah. But
So that's how I kind of look at it, and also like I look at it too. Like every time I am so up to my eyeballs in dealing with the bullshit that comes along with being in a wheelchair, like I think of people that are in my situation with 2 kids that have been in a chair for 25 years already, and it's just like, Jesus, you know, like I got nothing on them, you know. It's like. So that's where I draw inspiration and kind of level set a little bit about reality.
Personally, do you have struggles with like depression and stuff like that at time to time, or are you pretty solid?
I mean, there are times where there are times where it's fucking exhausting. There's just like that's what it is there's no I can accomplish stuff like this and be over the moon about it, but every morning I'm still waking up in the wheelchairs right by my bed. Like there's no escaping it, and there's no vacation from it, and it's just that thing that's like, yeah, it's just always going to be there. So I wouldn't say I have an incredible support network. I'm not I wouldn't say I'm depressed. I am eager to get back to my able body.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
You're just tired. Like it's just tiring.
Everything takes forever. I had no freaking patience to begin with prior to my injury, so I've had to learn a bit of patience, and even still, I'm not a patient person whatsoever, so little things can really piss you off, like,
yeah.
But it's just getting through that. Yeah, it's just, and I don't want to sound like I haven't accepted the fact that I'm in a wheelchair and that's how it's going to be for a while. Like, I get that. I'm not losing hope. Like,
no, totally. It's crazy with all the medical breakthroughs. Like I met some people down when I was in Thailand, and they worked for a company in New York that was experimenting with like implanting a Bluetooth chip into someone's brain, and then basically implanting a receiver below their spinal cord injury break, and then having the signal
connect. Yeah, so that's what it is. So when you injure your spinal cord, it's just basically like excavating a part of a highway. Like you just can't pass, your signals don't continue passing through. Like, so the scar tissue from your spinal cord does not allow the signals from your brain to get through your spinal cord to your extremities.
So when you have a spinal cord injury and it's completely severed, does it regrow but it just can't function?
It's there, it's just mangled with scar tissue.
So the scar tissue is actually inhibiting it.
Correct.
But the cord will actually like connect that sever?
I believe so. That would be a better question for somebody more qualified than me, but that's my understanding, yeah.
Oh, crazy.
I saw some pretty cool research recently that kind of fired me up a little bit. They're 3D printing spinal cords with stem cells and then implanting them in the area where you had your injury and seeing if they can like
no way
regrow a normal spinal cord using stem cells.
Like without the scar tissue blockage. Correct. Basically. Yeah. That's really cool.
So that to me like is kind of promising, and like 3D printing and technology and that kind of stuff all together with stem cells, like, sounds hopeful. Maybe they're onto something.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
No, I'm excited to see to follow your story and continue to see how it progresses. Because like I said, if anyone can do it, you can. And
that's how I feel. I'm not done yet, man. Yeah.
Yeah, it's sick. Well, cool. And then just to kind of wrap things up a little bit, like, you know, you're with Team Granite boys out here, right?
I am.
Team Granite.
Yep.
And what is that like?
Team Granite was started with me and a friend learning how to mountain bike after work, in starting like I think 2011 or 2012. We both bought 26-inch hardtail mountain bikes and killed ourselves after work for the first year and a half learning how to ride on like super technical rooty terrain. You know, finally we got our skills enough to the point where we purchased full-blown full suspension mountain bikes. We thought we were like hot shit. Started racing enduro a little bit, and then from there we kind of called ourselves Team Granite, and then we started riding more with some like more talented riders and more people in southern New Hampshire, and it just kind of grew to a thing. Now we have like a solid group of 30 very talented riders that are usually at those Wednesday night rides at Highland that I was mentioning, and just the vibe of the group is just like what you see here. It's just like a bunch of really good buddies having a blast on bikes.
Yeah, and they're good riders too.
Really good riders, yeah. That's the best part about it, is like everybody can shred. It's so fun. Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Oh, sweet, dude. Well, it's really, really cool to meet you. And I feel, if you can tell people your Instagram and all that stuff, people can
follow me along at GoodNYou, good GOOD_N_YOU. I've been posting a couple videos of what I've been doing on that bowhead bike and also the bucket bike and what I'm doing here at Retallack. So give me a follow. I would greatly appreciate that. And yeah.
That's cool. Yeah, I think people definitely like to see the story and see you kind of do your thing. And
I like making the content, so it's all good.
Yeah, and like you said before, you just want to be able to show other adaptive athletes, like, you can do this, let's push to get this cool stuff done and get people included in like really rad spots like this. So.
And I am an open book about it, so if anybody has any questions as far as how I was able to do it and how they can do it, I would be more than happy to help coach you through it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, cool.
Thanks, buddy. Appreciate your time.
Yeah,
and,
for sure. Thank you,
looking
Ryan.
forward to riding from the top of a mountain out of a helicopter.
Yeah, I'll
tomorrow.
post some heli footy for everyone to check out for sure.
Yeah, bud.
Cool. Thanks, Ryan.
Thanks, buddy. Appreciate it.
Yeah. How stoked are you?
Very, dude. Very stoked. We made it through with my boys. The guides here definitely knew my limitations. Everything worked out way better than I could have expected. You take risks, obviously, like with the bucket bike, especially, and for me to have no incidents at all in this entire experience is, first of all, unexpected. But yeah, I'm leaving pretty proud.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think everyone's proud of you.
Thanks, man.
How awesome was it flying in the heli?
The heli was, fuck, dude. Just to see that, like,
You gotta jam it in a bag.
it was insane.
Yeah.
It was insane. Everything that I ever wished that it would be and more.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Was it pretty weird seeing your bike hanging
The
from the...
bowhead, right? Oh my god, the bowhead being towed by the helicopter. Yeah, that was cool. That's gonna be great for that bike too. Like, we'll see where that goes with that. We just showed that you can take that thing to the top of a freaking mountain in British Columbia via a helicopter and get down. I was assisted once, but that's pretty good.
That's awesome.
That's pretty good. Yeah,
That's cool. Do you feel like you could take something off your bucket list?
for sure. Yeah, I do. It's been, this whole trip has been a lot of work to plan and to get approval from Retallack, and to more so like the planning of it, just because I require some special amenities, when it comes to doing stuff like this. They were fully able to accommodate to everybody's needs and more, and to my riding needs. So can't say enough about this place either. I'll be back.
That's awesome.
100%.
Hell yeah, dude.
Yeah. Thanks, buddy.
Yeah.